disastrous the mayor who tried to buy a judge. The mayor walked into court thinking he owned the room. He had the suit. He had the power. He had the city behind him. And before the judge had even opened the case file, he leaned in and basically said, "Rule in my favor, or your courthouse doesn't get renovated." That was the moment the entire courtroom froze. Because this wasn't some random defendant with a bad attitude. This was the elected mayor of the city trying to pressure a judge in open court. And the person he was targeting? A 72-year-old woman who had run the same tiny alteration shop for 38 years. But what the mayor didn't know was simple. Judge Judy had seen arrogance before, and she was about to drag the truth into the light. Before we get into this wild courtroom takedown, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button, because stories like this are exactly why people still believe courtroom justice can hit harder than any scandal headline. Mayor Conrad Briggs entered the courtroom like a man attending a meeting he had already won. He didn't sit quietly. He didn't show respect. He checked his watch, dropped a folder on the table, and made it clear he expected this case to be wrapped up in 15 minutes, because apparently justice had to hurry. He had a press conference at noon. Across from him sat Nora Pham, 72 years old, small, cardigan. Hands folded, back straight, the kind of woman who had spent her life working, not performing. For 38 years, Nora had opened her alteration shop at 6 in the morning. Same corner, same customers, same quiet routine. And in all that time, not one citation, not one complaint, not one violation. Then suddenly, in just 10 days, the city hit her with 7 violations. 7. A frayed awning, a sign supposedly 2 inches too large. Anonymous complaints, maintenance issues, all appearing at the exact moment a major development project wanted her block. And then Judge Judy noticed something strange. The paperwork looked official, but the details were empty. No engineering report, no real measurements, no named complainants, just boxes checked, vague language, and the unmistakable smell of a setup. When the code inspector was questioned, everything started falling apart. The dangerous awning, he admitted it was only visually worn. The oversized sign, measured with a tape and an estimate. The complaints, anonymous, no names, no proof, no backbone. And that's when the mayor made his first big mistake. He leaned forward and said, "The investors cannot wait." There it was, not public safety, not code enforcement, not community concern, investors. That one sentence changed the entire temperature of the courtroom, because suddenly this wasn't about a shop. It was about a corner, a valuable corner, and a mayor who seemed willing to use city power to crush an elderly woman out of the way. Judge Judy turned to Nora and asked the question that cut through all the legal noise. In 38 years, how many citations had she received before this? Nora answered quietly, "None, not one." And the courtroom went silent. Then came the twist the mayor never saw coming. A man named David Reyes walked in carrying a thick folder. He owned a print shop 2 doors down from Nora. He had also worked as a city planning analyst, and he had records, public records at Palms, timelines, transfers. The development deal had been signed 11 days before Nora received her first citation. The inspector had been transferred to her district that same week. And emails from the mayor's office had instructed code enforcement to document issues on that specific block. Not the area, not the neighborhood. The block, the courtroom, didn't need dramatic music. The documents did all the damage. Mayor Briggs had walked in thinking he controlled the story. Now the story was controlling him. Judge Judy dismissed every single violation. Nora's business license was reinstated immediately. Her record was cleared. The code enforcement process was referred for investigation, and the development documents were sent to the state attorney general. That should have been the end of it. But the mayor wasn't finished embarrassing himself. He stood up without permission and started shouting about judicial overreach, political motivation, and the city's future. Classic move. When the facts fail, yell about the future. Then his lawyer tried one last desperate trick. He produced a legal opinion on city letterhead claiming the judge couldn't refer evidence to the attorney general without city council approval. Judge Judy looked at the document, no filing number, no public record, prepared specifically for that day by a legal office connected to the mayor, and that was it. The mask was off. Judge Judy cited Mayor Briggs for direct contempt of court, 5 days in county custody, immediate. The man who walked in checking his watch was now being escorted out in front of the same courtroom he thought he owned, and 5 days later he came back. No aides, no expensive lawyer, no polished image. Just a county-issued gray jumpsuit and a face that looked like power had finally stopped protecting him. This time he looked at Nora, really looked at her. He admitted he had seen her shop as a corner, not as a life, not as 38 years of work, not as a woman who built something with her own hands. He apologized, not like a politician, like a man who had spent 5 days without his title and finally had nothing left to hide behind. Nora listened, then she nodded once. No big speech, no dramatic forgiveness, just dignity, and somehow that hurt more. The mayor was later transferred to state investigators to face serious allegations, including abuse of office, procurement fraud, and interference with a civil proceeding. But before he left, he said one quiet sentence: "I forgot what the job was supposed to be." And then he was gone. The next morning, Nora opened her shop at 6 a.m., just like she always had, because this was never just a story about one mayor. It was about what happens when power forgets who it serves. It was about a system being used like a weapon. It was about a woman in a cardigan standing against a man in a custom suit. And in that courtroom, the suit lost, because the law is not supposed to bend for investors. It is not supposed to kneel for politicians. And it is not supposed to crush ordinary people just because someone powerful wants their corner. If this case shocked you, drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think 5 days was enough? Or should the mayor have faced something much bigger? And if you want more courtroom stories where lies collapse, power gets exposed, and justice finally hits back, subscribe now and watch the next video.